Let me recopy this. So number 2, so this is in your practice packets. Practice, look at that. Practice packet. This is going to be 6.4 part 1. Number 2. And it says I have 4 ute to the 1/2 v to the negative 1/3 times 3 times y to the negative 2. Okay, so back when I was going over the exponent properties with you, I told you guys that the way that I teach this for students for the very first time is I regroup the numbers in each individual variable. So that's what I'm going to do here. I can do that because this is all multiplication, and multiplication is commutative, which means I can change order, which means like 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. So I'm going to change order. I'm going to put my numbers, and then I'm going to group my utes, my u's, the 2 utes, and my v's. Okay, numbers. I have 4 times 3. The 2 utes, that's a u, that's not a y. So the 2 u's, I have u to the 1/2 times u to the negative 2, and then my v to the negative 1/3. Okay, well, the first part's easy. 4 times 3, 12. Now the u's, we're multiplying with the same base, so we have to add the exponents, right? But I'm going to do it off to the side here. I'm going to add 1/2 and negative 2. Now I'm going to put that negative 2 in a fraction because we're dealing with fractions here. Now, you can go ahead and use your calculators and get the answer, but because we're juniors and you're going to have to take the SATs coming up. Some of you are even thinking of military. You got to take that, I don't know what you call it, MEBIS. I think that's the name of it. And there's sections in there where you're going to have to do math without a calculator. So if you're rusty with this, adding and subtracting fractions, you might want to do a couple of these manually, okay? So when I'm adding or subtracting fractions, the only way I can do that is if I have a common denominator. So I'm looking at the denominators, and the common denominator here is 2. So I got to change them both to 2. Now this one I don't have to change. I just leave it as is. Plus, I'm going to leave my plus negative in there. You can put a minus there, that's fine. But this fraction I have to change. To make that 1 a 2, I had to multiply it by 2, which means I have to multiply that numerator by 2. So I got negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Now that I have a common denominator, I combine them, or add or subtract, whatever it is. 1 plus a negative 4, negative 3. So my u ends up having an exponent of negative 3/2. And then I have my v to the negative 1/3. Now remember, I cannot have negative exponents in my answer. So I have to think of this as over 1 and flip those negative exponents. I have 12. U goes in the bottom now with a positive 3/2. And the V goes in the bottom with a positive 1/2. And there's my answer. Okay. Any questions? All right, next one, I'm going to do number 5. Number 5, I have 3x to the 5/3 y to the 1/2 over 4x to the 5/4. Okay, so now I have a fraction. I'm still going to group these. I'm still going to think of these as 3 separate fractions. I'm going to think of this as 3/4, 3/4 times my x fraction, x to the 5/3 over x to the 5/4, and then my y to the 1/2 over 1. Okay. Now, 3/4. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't even simplify it. It's already simplified. So 3/4, nothing I can do about it. The exponents for the x's. When I have the same base being divided, I have to start with the numerator exponent, which is 5/3, and I have to subtract 5/4. Now I'm going to do this one manually just to get some practice with subtracting fractions. Now, many times you can just look at the denominator here and multiply them together. You will get a common denominator, but not necessarily the lowest common denominator. You could do that, but you're going to be working with large numbers and you're going to have an extra step to simplify. So I'm going to go ahead and look for our lowest common denominator. Fortunately, it happens to be when these two are multiplied together, which is 12. Okay? So to get from 3 to 12, I multiplied by 4, which means I have to multiply the 5 by 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. I'm subtracting. Now, the 5/4, I multiplied the 4 by 3. I have to multiply the 5 by 3. I get 15. Now I can combine, because I have the common denominator. 20 minus 15 is 5. So my exponent for x is positive, so it goes up on top, and it's 5/12. And the last one I have is y to the positive 1/2. So it's going to go up on top, 1/2. There's my answer. Questions? Okay, the last one. 7 is x to the negative parenthesis, x to the negative 1 times y to the 3/2 raised to the 1/4 times x to the 1/3 times y squared. Okay, so I'm going to do two steps at once here. We have an exponent outside parentheses, and we have to distribute it to each one of the exponents inside. Okay. And at the same time I'm doing that, I'm also going to regroup these to my x's and my y's. So here's my first x. X to the -1 times 1/4 is x to the -1/4. My second x is out here, x to the 1/3. Okay. Y, my first y, I have to multiply. I got to multiply fractions. A lot easier than adding and subtracting because I just multiply across 3/2 times 1/4. Make sure nothing cancels out because you can save yourself a step if you do that. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 4 is 8. So my first y is y to the 3/8. And my second y is y squared. Okay, so let's look at the x exponents. Same base being multiplied. We add these. -1/4 plus 1/3. And we already know the common base, common denominator for 4 and 3 is 12. Let's see, multiply this by 3. Have to multiply that by 3. So that's -3. See, multiply that by 4. So I got to multiply that by 4. I get +4. I think I'm missing a negative sign somewhere. I am, because I did this problem twice already. This is supposed to be -1/3. -1/3, which means this is a -4/12. Okay, so combine -3 plus -4, -7. So I have x with an exponent of -7/12. And my y, I got to do the whole same thing over again, 3/8 plus 2. Except I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use them because I'm getting a little tired of doing them manually. So, depending on what type of calculator you have, okay, it's going to be different for every calculator. And even if you have like somebody with the same calculator, could be different depending on the software you have loaded. So I'm going to do this. I have my 3/8. I always put fractions in parentheses because your calculator is very, very picky about PEMDAS. Does it strictly. So I put them in 3 divided by 8 parentheses all the time so I don't screw it up. So I have 3/8 plus 2. I'm going to hit enter, get a decimal, then I'm going to hit this math button, and then enter, enter. I get 19/8. Okay. A lot easier than doing it manually, but again, if you need to practice, try doing it manually. Oh, don't forget, we've got a negative exponent, so I need to put it in the denominator, and make it positive. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns? That's all I got. You guys don't have any questions or anything, you're more than free